Near-death experience, scientific study, and the perspective of the Quran. A near-death experience, or NDE, is an extraordinary event experienced by someone when they are in a state of clinical death, but then manage to come back to life. For more than 50 years, scientists have seriously studied this phenomenon. Research shows that about 18% of people who survive cardiac arrest report profound experiences while they are clinically dead. Research shows that about 18% of people who survive cardiac arrest report profound experiences while they are clinically dead. Research shows that about 18% of people who survive cardiac arrest report profound experiences while they are clinically dead. These experiences challenge our understanding of the relationship between the brain, consciousness, and death. Scientific research on NDE, the pioneers of research. Systematic research on NDE began in 1975 with Dr. Raymond Moody, who introduced the term near-death experience. Systematic research on NDE began in 1975 with Dr. Raymond Moody, who introduced the term near-death experience, after analyzing 150 cases in his book, Life After Life. The research was then continued by several prominent scientists. Dr. Kenneth Ring from the University of Connecticut developed the 5-stage model of NDE and founded the International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANDS. Dr. Michael Sabam, a cardiologist, compared NDE patient reports with a control group, finding that patients could describe resuscitation procedures with remarkable accuracy even though they were clinically unconscious. Dr. Pim van Lommel conducted a 4-year prospective study with 344 cardiac arrest patients in 10 Dutch hospitals. His research, published in The Lancet in 2001, found that NDE occurred in 18% of patients and could not be explained by medical, psychological, or pharmacological factors. Research methodology. Researchers used methods such as in-depth interviews, standardized questionnaires, prospective studies, physiological monitoring, and group comparisons. Van Lommel's prospective approach, interviewing patients immediately after resuscitation and conducting follow-up interviews at 2- and 8-year intervals, provided more reliable data on the NDE phenomenon. Common findings in NDEs. Scientific research has identified consistent patterns in NDEs. 1. A sense of peace and absence of pain. Nearly 90% of people who experience NDEs report an extraordinary sense of peace and calm. Physical pain suddenly disappears, replaced by a deep sense of comfort. 2. Out-of-body experience. Around 80% of cases report out-of-body experiences, where they feel their consciousness is separated from their physical body. They often describe floating above their body and witnessing resuscitation efforts from above. Dr. Sabam documented cases of patients who could accurately describe medical equipment and conversations that took place while they were unconscious. 3. Tunnel and light. About 70% of people report moving through darkness or a tunnel toward a very bright light. This light is described as brighter than anything ever seen, but not blinding, and often radiates personal qualities, love, and warmth. This light is described as brighter than anything ever seen but not blinding, and often radiates personal qualities, love, and warmth. 4. Encountering spiritual entities. Around 60% report meeting others during NDEs, whether deceased family members, spiritual figures according to their faith, or beings of light radiating unconditional love. Communication often occurs without words, through a kind of telepathy. 5. Panoramic life review. About 30 to 40 people experience a panoramic life review, in which they see events from their lives. This review has unique characteristics. It happens very quickly but in great detail, your whole life in a flash. It includes the perspective of others, feeling how their actions affected other people. Non-judgmental, but brings a deep understanding of the meaning and consequences of their actions. In this review, people not only see their actions, but also feel the emotional impact of those actions on others. They experience the joy or suffering they caused others, as if it were their own feelings. This experience is often described as learning through unconditional love, not through punishment. 6. The boundary or point of no return. Many report reaching a kind of boundary or border where they are told or understand that if they cross it, they will not be able to return to physical life. Some are given the choice to return, while others feel sent back because there is still a task to be completed. 7. Verified perceptions. Some patients can accurately describe events that happened in other rooms while they were unconscious. Dr. Ring and Sharon Cooper documented cases of blind people who experienced vision during NDEs, raising profound questions about the nature of perception and consciousness. The scientific significance of NDE research. NDE research has several important scientific implications. Challenge to neurobiological theories. NDEs occur when the brain experiences severe functional disruption. Van Lommel's research found that NDEs occur precisely when EEG readings show a flat line, which theoretically means there is not enough brain activity to support consciousness. Universal phenomenon. NDEs have been documented worldwide, transcending cultural, religious, age, and educational boundaries. Transformative effects. Longitudinal studies show that NDEs often result in profound changes in personality and values, including reduced fear of death, increased empathy, decreased materialism, and heightened spirituality. Non-local consciousness. Based on his findings, van Lommel proposed the theory of non-local consciousness, which states that consciousness does not depend entirely on brain function, but rather that the brain may be more like a receiver of consciousness than a producer of it. Consistency with the teachings of the Quran. When we compare scientific findings about NDEs with the Quran's descriptions of death and the journey of the soul, we find several interesting similarities. 1. The process of the soul separating from the body. The Quran describes the process of dying as the separation of the soul, ruh, from the body. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah, verses 83 to 84, Allah says, "Why, when the soul reaches the throat, while you are at that moment looking on?" This aligns with the out-of-body experiences reported in NDEs, where a person's consciousness feels separated from their physical body. 2. The presence of angels. The Quran mentions the presence of angels at the time of death. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah, verse 85, Allah says, "And we are closer to him than you, but you do not see." Surah As-Sajdah, verse 11, specifically mentions the angel of death. Say, "The angel of death who is set over you will take your soul, then to your Lord you will be returned." This is similar to NDE reports of meeting spiritual entities or beings of light, who guide them during the experience. 3. The journey of the soul. The Quran describes the journey of the soul after death as depending on a person's spiritual state. For the righteous soul, Surah Al-Fajr verses 27 to 30 describes, "O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased and pleasing to him, so enter among my righteous servants, and enter my paradise." For the righteous soul, Surah Al verses 27 to 30 describes, "O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased and pleasing to him, so enter among my righteous servants and enter my paradise." In NDE research, many report journeys through a tunnel toward light, with an overwhelming sense of peace, similar to the Quran's description of the tranquil soul returning to its Lord. In NDE research, many report journeys through a tunnel toward light, with an overwhelming sense of peace, similar to the Quran's description of the tranquil soul returning to its Lord. 4. The concept of Barzakh. The Quran explains the concept of Barzakh, or the realm between death and resurrection. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 100, Allah says, "And before them is a barrier, Barzakh, until the day they are resurrected." Barzakh is described as a state in which the soul remains conscious and awaits the day of resurrection. This is similar to NDE reports indicating that consciousness can remain active even when the physical body is not functioning. 5. Life review and accountability. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes that every soul will be held accountable for its actions. Surah Al-Zalzala, verses 7 and 8, states, "Whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it as well. In Surah Al-Isra, verses 13 and 14, Allah says, "And every human being, we have fastened his deeds to his neck, and on the day of resurrection, we will bring forth for him a book which he will find wide open. Read your book, sufficient is yourself against you this day as accountant." In Surah Al-Isra, verses 13 and 14, Allah says, "And every human being, we have fastened his deeds to his neck, and on the day of resurrection we will bring forth for him a book which he will find wide open. Read your book, sufficient is yourself against you this day as accountant." In Surah Al-Isra, verses 13 and 14, Allah says, "And every human being we have fastened his deeds to his neck, and on the day of resurrection we will bring forth for him a book which he will find wide open. Read your book, sufficient is yourself against you this day as accountant." In Surah Al-Isra, verses 13 and 14, Allah says, "And every human being, we have fastened his deeds to his neck, and on the day of resurrection, we will bring forth for him a book which he will find wide open. Read your book, sufficient is yourself against you this day as accountant." These verses describe the process by which humans will face a complete record of their deeds and become fully aware of the consequences of every action. This process has a deep similarity to the panoramic life review reported in NDEs. In the NDE life review, people not only witness their actions, but also feel their impact on others. They experience the joy or suffering they caused as if it were their own feelings. Dr. Kenneth Ring describes this phenomenon as a profound empathic experience, in which a person feels the ripple effect of every action they take. Surah Al-Qiyamah, verses 14 and 15, also mentions, "Indeed, man will be a witness against himself, even if he presents his excuses." This reflects the element of self-witnessing in the NDE life review, where people see their actions with unmatched clarity, without justification or denial. Most interestingly, both the NDE life review and accountability in the Quran are not described as punitive experiences, but rather as a process of learning through awareness and understanding. There is no external judgment in the NDE life review. Instead, people themselves feel the moral consequences of their actions through expanded awareness. This aligns with the Islamic concept that Allah does not punish people for their actions, but allows them to face the natural consequences of their own choices. Conclusion. Scientific research on NDEs has produced findings that challenge conventional understanding of consciousness and death. The consistent patterns reported by people from various backgrounds have intriguing similarities with the Quran's descriptions of the process of death and the journey of the soul. Both scientific and Quranic perspectives indicate that death is not the end of consciousness, but rather a transition. Both scientific and Quranic perspectives indicate that death is not the end of consciousness, but rather a transition. Both describe the process of separation of consciousness from the physical body, the journey of the soul, and the continuation of consciousness after bodily functions cease. The deepest similarities are found in the life review experience of NDEs and the concept of accountability in Islam. Both emphasize that we will face and feel the consequences of every action we take, not as punishment, but as a process of learning through expanded awareness. The convergence between experiences reported in modern scientific studies and descriptions in Holy Scriptures revealed more than 14 centuries ago is truly remarkable. This invites us to consider the possibility that human consciousness has dimensions beyond the physical body, and that death is not the end of the human journey, but a transition to a different form of existence. The NDE phenomenon bridges the worlds of science and spirituality, reminding us that fundamental questions about existence and what happens after death continue to attract the attention of people from various disciplines and traditions.